Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome to yet another CRAM tutorial, a slightly different one than usual, showing you how to make horrible yet fun CRAM Tetris. Now, what this video is about is a kind of a way to put together a CRAM cannon, which I use reasonably often, that is actually not as good as the standard and arguably best way to do it. But it does have its uses, and I quite like using it, because it's reasonably simple, and it's just, I don't know, it feels good to make CRAM cannons like this. And I call it, cramped CRAM cannon Tetris, as opposed to, I guess you could call it diamond Tetris. This is more like square Tetris. So, cramped square Tetris. So, what do I mean by this? So, to start off with, we should probably talk about what regular CRAM Tetris looks like. So, with your CRAM cannon, the basic way to think of it is you kind of have a diamond shape of autoloaders and pellets. So you have a connector, you have four autoloaders coming off that one connector, and then in between the autoloaders, so every peg there, every pointy bit, is attached to either a pellet or ammunition, and it just can keep branching out. Whoops. It can just keep branching out like that, and then another loader can go here, and then another connector can go here, and the pattern can repeat endlessly. Okay, so that's the regular Tetris, and I have done a tutorial on that specific form of Tetris before. I will try to remember to put that in the description so you can go see it. And it's generally the way you want to make a CRAM cannon because it's overall the best way. The way I'm about to show you is silly and fun, but for actual hard results, it is worse in most ways. So, what is that way? So that way is square Tetris, and this is actually kind of a bad example, because this is the regular diamond Tetris, so we're actually going to skip that over completely. So, okay, never mind, I did all that for nothing. It really comes into it here. So, these are 3x3, and this is not the most effective 3x3 Tetris you can make. There's other ways which involve turning this whole setup sideways. But once we get over here, you can show what I'm talking about. So this is the regular diamond. It's same thing, repeating pattern. And this is the cramped version. The cramped version basically has the connectors being only one space away from each other. And the advantage of this is that it's brain dead to make. It's just, you just make a whole bunch of connectors, one space away from each other, and then you fill in the gaps between them. It is cheaper overall, so this setup right here, admittedly with a lot more gauge increases managed to be fitted in, is around 430 materials for this 5x5, 1 meter tall slice, and the same size slice is 345 materials. Because it uses, it has less explosive pellets and a few more connectors, and connectors are cheaper. Now you might be wondering what on earth is the benefit for it. Well, for a single CRAM cannon there isn't really one, so it's cheaper, but once we go to the slightly more complete version, this is 890 materials and there's a lot of room for gauge increases around it. The same thing, so I'll show you, this is the square Tetris, this is the diamond Tetris, and this is a smaller gun, so this is 1225mm, this is 1724mm, and this is 745 materials, this is 890. This is more efficient in pretty much every way, because it's got a much bigger gun in a smaller space, lousy reload time, because it's just this one slice of pellets and ammo down here. This fires once every 10 seconds though, but it's just generally terrible. So, this square Tetris, which I'll go back over here just to show you, is not good for single guns. For single guns, and particularly with guns of this size, so a 5x5 cram turret, minus the armor, you are much better off using the regular diamond Tetris, okay? Cannot make that clear enough. Where the square Tetris gets fun and interesting is when you want to stick as many different crams, as in separate cram systems, different guns, into one turret as possible, so, which is why I say it's silly. So, advantages are, it's kind of easy to do, it's On paper, it's cheaper, it allows more guns in a tighter space, and I just found it fun. It's, however, less material efficient for space, because you can jam a better gun into a smaller space just with more materials with the regular Diamond Tetris. It's harder to squeeze in ammunition and gauge increases, particularly once you start sticking lots of guns in the same turret, and just generally fires weaker shells. So, just because there's more connectors and less pellets. So, the only reason for it is you can get, well, basically whenever I make wacky like 12 gun turrets and stuff like that using CRAMs, this is the Tetris I use. So, over here we've got the smallest possible 4x4, smallest efficient, a 4-gun turret arrangement for a CRAM cannon that you can get with the regular Diamond Tetris. So it starts with an explosive pellet in the middle, and the diamond pattern starts branching off from there, and each color is a separate CRAM system. So the Tetris for this would look something like... Let's see, I think it would look something like... It'd be kind of hard to get a 4x4 gun out of this. You would need to be creative. Yeah, you'd need to do some kind of twiddling around with that. Which is why, for a CRAM cannon which I want to have multiple barrels but still be rather compact, I would use this. Because this is really easy. You'll notice there's less in it. It is overall still a weaker gun, and this has room for gauge increases. So you can build up your gun, build a tower out of it, and you can just stick gauge increases for every one of them down around here. And you can have 4 guns, and it's really easy to get the Tetris for this, because it looks something like this. 1, 2, 4, and then cheese that on there. And it also allows you a slightly smaller turret cap to do this, because you can stick both the 2 pairs of CRAM cannons right next to each other, which is quite handy actually, because if you do not do that, and I'm going to try and make this one do what I want it to, so 2, can't do that. I'm a little bit out of practice with this. Okay, so I've managed it right here, and even managed to get it looking the same way, but there's some crazy snaky Tetris in here that is probably not the right way to do it, but it's how I managed to figure that out in about 1 minute. So, this is just more brain dead, and I love it. And it gets really important once you get to building a nice, consistent round shape with more, with even bigger guns than that. So, 3x3 CRAMs are quite difficult, simply because this is a cube-based game, there's 4 sides to everything, and it's just really difficult to do that. So, what we have here is 2 different slices of CRAM pancake. This one is the smallest efficient form of Diamond Tetris for a 3-gun CRAM turret that can still rotate on a turret block. So it's quite big. This is 11 by 11 meters, and it's got 3 connector towers, I guess you could call it, per gun, and that is quite big. However, the smallest possible, I mean, I guess you can get it smaller than this, but the Tetris looks something like this. This is a slice of pancake, CRAM pancake, off this gun right here, which is what the gun you find on the Deepwater Guard Plunderer. So, if you go here, if you've ever been shot at by this thing, you'll realize it hurts, but it's amazing that, because it has really, and I don't mean to, like, sass the person who made it, it has really terrible Tetris in there. It just uses way too many explosive pellets, like, in quite an unsafe configuration, because these will destroy each other if at least one of them gets blown up. And it's just look at it. It's a horrible mess. And over here is what you get in here. So it's like, if I just stick firing pieces on that, see that, and presumably... presumably it's something like this. And it's not ideal. So, 3x3 Tetris is hard to make small unless you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of efficiency and balanced numbers and do something like this. This is a 5x5 arrangement for a CRAM cannon that is 3 turrets. So you got these 2 turrets here, 1, 2, 1, 2, firing pieces on here, and then you've got this third one in the back, which is not going to be exactly the same stats as these two, but it ends up looking like this. And gauge increases can be put around here, as many as you like, and it's just a nice simple way to get a multi-barreled gun in a smaller space, and it's just a lot easier. So that's basically why you do it. Now for the live demonstration of a few I have made, so you can see what I'm talking about. We need to get... We've been shooting at the Marauder too much, let's shoot at the Plunderer instead. There's the Plunderer, let's go 1,000 meters away, and let us go here, and let's go... Test Fortresses, CRAM, and CRAM Tetris Showcase number 1. Nope. So here we have a whole mess of things I made earlier to show off like how these things can work. So, made this earlier actually. So here we have the 4x4. It's 4 CRAM cannons stuck in a 5x5 package, which would probably be 7x7 once you add turret armor. And all the guns have the same stats, and it kind of circles around like this. I actually got the idea for this form of Tetris after messing around with advanced cannons for a really long time. And just this kind of rotational symmetry is great for advanced cannons, and it can be quite an eye-opener if you use it for CRAMs as well. Again, not great efficient results for cost versus damage and all that stuff, but it still does reasonably okay. This gun is not amazing, so the explosive damage, once it's done, and I have no idea why this gun on the end here has like more damage than the other 3. It's got CRAM's funny like that, it's just how the system works. So this thing is set to fire once every 20 seconds, so you can see the damage when it gets to 20 seconds is not great. It gets to about... wait for it. Density is not very high. About 20 seconds. I'm going to hit the pause button so you can see... Now! So it's just shy of 3 density level 3, about 4,000 explosive damage, which is just on this one for some reason. It's 3,000 on the other ones, which for a CRAM of this size isn't good. But it's 4 of them in one package, which is quite handy if they all hit in the same place. Now, Plunderer Friend is not going to have a good time with this, assuming they hit. They did hit. So this is perhaps... I actually really like this form of gun, simply because it's very simple as Tetris, very brain dead, and it's just fun to have a 4-barreled CRAM cannon in such a tight spot, because you can have lots of these. This is the kind of glorious spam gun kind of thing. Although each shell apparently doesn't do enough damage to destroy CRAM barrels, which is less good. So we're gonna go there, and we're gonna look at the next one, which is exactly the same, and it's that tiny 3x3 that we talked about earlier. So, this gun in the back here, the red one, is way more powerful than these two, because these two only have a single autoloader touching this explosive pellet, which means that they are very, very weak indeed. All the fun is on this back one that has an explosive pellet and a fragmentation pellet. Assuming this is the same one. Ah, no. On this one, it is explosive pellets simply because I want to keep it nice and explodey. Bad pass, BorderWise. You forgot to change something. So this one, you'll be able to see, is, again, not great. If you like to have every single gun have exactly the same statistics, you will hate this kind of square Tetris, because as you can see, these guns on the side here are really not going to do much by CRAM standards, but the one in the middle, so we go 20, there we go, so about 3,000 damage on the right one, over 11,000 for the one in the middle, so really you can think of this as a one-barreled CRAM with 2 bonus guns on the end of it. So when it fires, also guns all very nice and snug together. See, the middle tracer is a lot longer, it's a lot stronger. And same kind of... it's the same gauge, so 1320 millimeters. And when it fires again, which will be sometime in this century, I guess, it kind of does do more damage because that one in the middle is just so strong. So I kind of like this one, despite the fact that it's got 2 crap guns on the side of it. But there's nothing stopping you from just building out that Tetris, so what you can do is, instead of having gauge increases there, you can instead keep the pattern going. So you can stick the ammo out here, and you can stick the pellets in here, which means it kind of turns into a cross between this kind of square Tetris and like starts to go into diamond Tetris, and then it kind of stops. So that's a fun way to do that. I've made some decent guns like that. That's actually, have I done that over here? I have not. And so here we get to where life gets really silly. This is a 5-barreled gun, and you'll notice these guns do have that 1 meter gap in between all the firing pieces, because trying to get all of them snug against each other doesn't work so well with odd numbers higher than 3. So you can see in there the kind of absolute shenanigans in here that I've needed to do with gauge increases, because yeah, the gauge snake gets interesting once you get above the number 4. So what we have here is, again, this is kind of brain-dead Tetris. It is not meant to be optimized, but it is meant to make turrets with many firing pieces a lot easier to do. So you've got this main snake down the middle, which is all the red gun. You've got these 2 in the middle here, which are all the guns on the side, and then these end guns on here, which are really terrible because they're touching hardly any pellets at all. And yeah, and also doing this really lessens the amount of ammunition you can stick on this CRAM, because CRAMs can't share ammunition, and so this gun right on the end here only has access to like 2 columns of ammunition. So the bigger you make this, the taller you must make it in order to work, which is why this thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 meters tall. And that is so that this gun over on the end here has about 1600 ammunition, and it can actually like continuously fire without running out. Particularly with big guns, that's an important thing to remember. And also you'll notice that these ammo boxes are not being shared by any of the guns, because that ruins absolutely everything. And just for consistency, this middle gun has the same amount of ammunition as these guns on the side, simply for consistency, because like there's no point adding extra ammo to a CRAM cannon if it's got enough to continuously fire, and if you don't want it to fire any faster than its immediate neighbor. So instead, it has more pellets, so it's a lot stronger. So, see here, bang. You see it's charging up, we're going to wait the 20 seconds. So that's not packing very fast, this is packing a lot faster, and that middle one is packing at supersonic speed. So we're going to go back to this one, we're going to pause, show you just how much these guns contrast. So yeah, as I cannot emphasize enough, this is silly Tetris. This is fun Tetris. It is not... I would not enter a tournament with guns using this kind of Tetris unless I was taking a massive gamble, because, let's face it, you would get curb stomped by people who just do the actual smart thing. So these guns on the end is just over 8,000, these guns in the middle is 12,000, and this one in the middle is around 13,000. So that's pretty decent. This one in the middle actually is over-crammed, because the jump from 8,000 to 12,000 is a much bigger jump than the jump from 12,000 to 13,000. There's not much point in cramming a CRAM cannon, over about a density level of 10, because the diminishing returns after that point are just kind of silly. And these ones actually are getting quite close to that density level of 10. So this is actually a pretty decent gun. Everyone gets enough density. So I'm gonna show off this guy when he fires at our friendly neighborhood plunderer. Also, yeah, same. I believe it is the same gauge as the other ones. You'll notice that some of these traces are a lot longer than the others. Much higher crammage. And kaboom! I believe this is slightly smaller actually. It's 1225, and it's because the more guns you stick on this, the harder it is to kind of thread the Tetris through. So if I turn you off for a second, you'll notice that the Tetris in here is a bit of a nightmare. So it's just trial and error, I tend to find, just to get it right so every gun has enough Tetris. In fact, I tend to find that in order for every gun to have their fair share, you need to start biting into the armor of the thing. So the glass is showing where armor would usually go on top, and you can see here, around the edges, these gauge increases would be exposed. They would be actually in the line where the metal would usually go. So that is an unfortunate compromise of making a gun with this kind of Tetris and with this many guns jammed with the turret. But it can get even sillier, because all you have to do to add more guns on here is to just make it slightly wider. And trying to make a 5-barrel gun, or in this case a 12-barrel gun, which has that lovely snug Tetris, and each individual gun is even smaller than this one. These are 1173 millimeters. These are 1225 millimeters. Trying to get that many guns onto a turret using the regular diamond Tetris, it would just be too much. It would not be really feasible at all. But with this square Tetris, or cramped Tetris, it can work. So here we have similar thing, and with even-numbered guns, you can do this kind of trick. So, over here, we have this unbroken line of the middle gun running straight down the middle of this slice of cram pancake. But over here, that pancake is divided in half, fairly between each line of guns. So this 1, 2, 3, that's one gun, and then this one is another one. And same as it goes down the line, with these two on the end here being their own entities as well. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different guns all in this cram turret. And the Tetris in here is a little bit wacky. So you will see here that it's a similar thing to this gun over here. It's just, it makes a jaunty left. Right here it goes up, and this is important. These connectors are not touching any other cram connector, and they're not touching any other firing piece or gauge increaser, because the moment you do that, the crams get mixed up, and that's a bad time. So a similar story here, and this is a lot easier to do with even crams. So you can follow the gauge snake, say with this yellow one. It's got this whole slice of the cake all to itself. It goes up here, and it hangs a sharp left, and the connector attaches onto the firing piece from the back, whereas the ones in between attach from the bottom, and it's all very nice. And you just kind of got to figure out where to stick the fusing boxes and laser targeters, assuming you're using them, and just slam them in wherever they fit. And the gauge increase is the usual improvised nightmare. It's basically, you decide, preferably from the edges, because these guys have the least room for gauge increases. You decide from the ends how big you want each gun to be, and yes, you do want them to be all the same gauge so the thing aims properly, and then you got to work your way inwards, and then work your way around the corners or stuff like that. And these gauge increase corners are fantastic for this, because they only it's two sides, so it's on basically the curved side. So we're looking at this on its left, and on the top of it, it doesn't connect to any other cram. So you can see right here, this one is attached to this one, but it's not attached to these. And And that's because it's not showing the flat sides to any other CRAM system, which is really great because it allows you to do this kind of alternating sawtooth right down the middle, so everybody gets enough gauge. There's a gap in the middle, and you do get gaps using this, by the way. I tend to fill it up with either metal, just so the thing doesn't fall apart completely if it gets destroyed, or at least slowing down the falling part completely. Or I filled it with surge protectors, because EMP can blow up explosive pellets. I'll show you what I mean right here, so excuse you. Do what I tell you, please. So here we have explosive pellets, and these things for some reason have an EMP susceptibility of 20%. So show you what I mean by that, because can I do that? Yes, I can. So what? There we go. So here we go, and let's turn that off. So that did a bunch of damage, and let's up the EMP damage considerably. And let's try that again. You'll notice that's not doing anything because surge protectors. Let me show you what happens when that doesn't happen. I stick surge protectors and... Oh, okay, let's delete these and I'll show you what I mean. What the hell just happened? Why did that fall off? That was weird! And why aren't these being destroyed? You're making a fool out of me, game. I'm very confused. More... Oh, it's because God... It's because God mode, duh. So yeah, that's what EMP does. Silly, silly BorderWise, forgetting that God mode's a thing. Why is the Plunderer drifted all the way there? That's naughty. Naughty Plunderer! How dare you? That's embarrassing. That is... Okay, I'm just gonna use the excuse that my room is really hot right now. Because, I don't know, that's my best excuse. So, let's get a fresh Plunderer in. Let's turn God mode back on, just in case. Let's fire this bad thing. And, yep, so after 20 seconds, this thing actually, really hurts because a smaller, better packed cram cannon does more damage than a larger one with less packing. So it's over 10%, and it's gonna get to, it's just shy of 10,000. But there's a whole bunch more which do that. So let's go here, spawn in the Plunderer, boop, boop, boop. Don't actually want you shooting because that's distracting. And let's clear the barrels for you. And excuse you, did you just talk rude? That's so rude. Freaking invisible barrels right here. That sucks. Now we wait. We wait and wait and wait some more. And kablooey. Super well packed because the cram cannon is very big, and I think a lot of the Plunderer is now missing now. Yep, that's 11% health taken off with one shot. And let's get the other ones. I'm very interested to see how this thing fires. Yep, it's got invisible barrels. Don't even worry about it. So yeah, this kind of cramped Tetris can be quite fun, and is great for building guns with way too many barrels. And once we get another volley off, invisible. This is a fun bug. It looks really weird. When you repair them, they sometimes go invisible. Yeah, Plunderer is not going to survive this next, but yep, he's not. Cool. So this is where we bought in something a little bit bigger, and I show you what I nearly killed myself making the other day. So we go here, boop, 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 boop. Don't want you moving, Mr. Bulwark. We're gonna go over here. And CRAM Tetris Showcase 2. This thing has the most barrels of anything I've ever made in my life. And please don't fire yet. This has 32 barrels. This is beyond the realm of practicality. It has about 16 barrels each. It is fully armored, just so you can see what it is, and see how thick that neck has to be. And yes, it has 5... it has a face of 5 on each side. Not sure what the technical term is. It has heavy barrels. It's just big and silly, and I enjoyed building it, even though it made my brain melt. So this is the Tetris here. It's the same story, that kind of even-numbered square Tetris that I was talking about earlier. It's neat little rows, each one being a separate gun, and the line down the middle, running lengthwise, is divided into so every gun has its own thing, and separate gauge increases, all color-coded, next to ammo boxes, which are just attached to the things they're supposed to be attached to. So you can see here, this green one right on the end, it has access to 2 towers of ammo boxes, as does this one, and this pink one, same thing. There's one, and... oh wait, no it doesn't. What the hell? Huh, interesting. I failed miserably, it seems. I guess I just put that there for giggles. Ah, that's an oversight, BorderWise. You should have thought of that. That's the problem with this kind of divided Tetris, is that each line, right at the end, only really has access to 1 ammo barrel stack. Unless I cheated. So, how much ammo do you have? Less. Ah, well. And the Tetris in the neck is really embarrassing. So, yeah, this back bit of here, I think this is hollow. Yep, it's hollow. It's just there so the gun doesn't look completely stupid. And it could probably jam detection systems in there or something. So, usual story. And there's lots of surge protectors in here just to stop the thing getting blown up too easily by EMP. Let's just test that quickly, because I think I'm still on the EMP. And let's see. Nope, disable that. And what if it hits here? Yep. And second one did the trick, so. At the very least, it stops random EMP missiles from ruining your life completely. So, oh yeah, the Tetris in here. Also, these things are here simply because I didn't feel like putting a metal block there. Although, frankly, that would do the trick quite nicely. So, the gauge increases with this made me a very, very sad man. This took bloody ages. I recommend you only do that, do this kind of thing if you're feeling brave making a gun this big. Because ultimately, this darn thing is too expensive for its own good, it's too big for its own good, and it's a nightmare. And you'll also notice that every gun has at least one local weapon controller. Yeah, each gun in fact does have its own local weapon controller, so that if the barrels get snubbed, they can all still, well, shortened rather, they can all still aim properly, because that's how you stop CRAM cannons getting more inaccurate when the barrels are all different lengths. And the fuses and fusing boxes, laser targeters are all kind of stuffed down the middle here in a very haphazard way. And just all the gaps are filled in with metal or surge protectors. And ultimately, not efficient, but hugely fun. And I can't personally think of another way that you'd get like 32 guns, or at least CRAM cannons, into one turret. And by the way, I do not suggest stacking them on top of each other, because you could do that. You could do that. You could just have something like, I'll show you what I mean. Wrong way. Here. So you could have something like this. You could have the firing piece like so. And you could do something like this. And that could work, except that I tend to find that cram cannons which do this, so let's put some barrels on here, just so you can see what I mean. When the bottom ones aim up, and when the top ones aim down, particularly if the barrels get shortened, so if this happens for instance, then it's very likely that the barrels shoot each other, like fail-safes or not. And if they do have the fail-safe set up properly, they tend to stop firing completely. So I do not recommend stacking them on top of each other, because it's just... I just never have had good results with that. I would advise against it. Not that this is a hell of a lot better, because it results in a very, very wide turret. And bigger turrets are more likely to get hit. So yeah, that's something you have to worry about. But let's fire this thing. This thing has staggered fire, by the way, so from the ends, it starts at 29 seconds between shots because it doesn't have enough ammunition, really, to fire at the max rate. But it starts at 29, and then 29.5, 30, 29, 29.5, 30, and just it keeps going like that, so you get this lovely staggered fire pattern. And I'll show you what I mean by firing now. Oh, my ears. So when we fire at the bulwark now, it might lose some of that to the lambs, and maybe it might not. And you'll also notice that this actually has a pretty decent gauge, like 1673 millimeters. And you'll notice that some of the guns reloaded a lot quicker. My bad. And yeah, the really high density, simply because this is such a massive gun. It's just and tall as well. But yeah. Big volleys, and the lambs can do nothing. And taking 7% off a bulwark with the first volley, yeah, is a great time. So this is the power of square Tetris. And perhaps you shouldn't go this crazy, but this is the kind of thing you can do if you kind of use that kind of, well, cramped square Tetris. God, I love this thing. I haven't fired it in ages. No wonder I haven't been as happy as usual. If you can do that to a bulwark, it's, jeez, that turret does not exist anymore. Should probably show you how much this thing costs. Cool your jets there for a second. Placeholder save, and... Yep, that is 171,789 materials. Which is pretty expensive, but there are railguns much smaller than this that cost the same, so... Yeah, it's just the only real problem is the size of it. But keep in mind, a 32 barrel cram cannon with regular diamond Tetris would be a lot bigger than that. Are we actually... Oh my goodness, we've almost blown a bulwark in half. This is actually overkill, just to use high explosive in a cannon like this. Simply because, well, it's just disintegrating everything it touches, like more than necessary. It's ridiculous. I wonder if this should be the thumbnail. No, we'd get blinded. And that is some crammed crams, let me tell you. Oh my god, we almost... Okay, we didn't actually cut a bulwark in half, but we came pretty close. Okay, I need to see that again. I need to see that again. What's a big angry thing? The Tyrannic. I hate the Tyrannic. The Tyrannic is just as annoying as ever. Wow. It just... Whoa, it just destroyed the sub-vehicles. If you ever wondered what kind of overkill it takes to destroy the Tyrannic quickly and easily, this is This is one example. Come on, let's kill it, let's kill it. The Tyrannic is still one of the most annoying things in the world. Wow, the game can't even handle this. Oh my god, see? Look at this, we've actually completely destroyed it. Like, all the sub-vehicles, all that. Wow. 32 cram cannons, all firing repeatedly at the same spot, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, like, I think that'll do for the demonstration, so... once again, it's inefficient, but fun, and allows you to do some crazy things. But when you go to your next tournament, assuming you enter tournaments, which I do recommend, it's fun, and you learn things, you might want to use the regular Tetris. But that is all the time we have, so thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell!